Good day, and today we're going to discuss about Lesson 2, the Individual and Dual Sports by Maria Cristina B. San Pedro, Instructor 1. Are you ready? So let's start. Sports can be enjoyable as well as a great way to get or stay in shape. Some sports are individual sports, where one athlete competes on his or her own merits. Other sports are individual sports, which require two athletes to compete as a team to win together. Both of these are distinct from team sports, where larger numbers of the athletes work together. The main difference between individual and dual sports is the number of the athletes who compete on the same side. So in this lesson, we're going to differentiate between the individual and dual sports. So it tells that individual sports, what? One athlete competes on his or her own merits, while the dual sports is what? Required two athletes to compete as a team to win together. So the main difference of these are the number of the athletes who compete on the same side. Any sports in which a player can play 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, or compete against oneself, students will learn and understand the basic skills, rules, strategy, and etiquette of the individual dual sports and incorporate those into structured games. So it tells that in this lesson, you will also know the different sports which can be player can play 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, or compete against oneself. Also, you will learn and understand the basic skills, rules, strategy, and etiquette of the individual or dual sports. Also, the structures of the games. So, what is individual sports? So, individual sports are those sports where only one athlete competes for his or her own side. Many track and field, cross-country, and swimming events are individual competition, where one athlete is solely responsible for winning or losing. Golf is another sport where each athlete is on his or her own. Skiing, snowboarding, and many other events you see in Olympic and other international competition are individual sports as well. Gymnastics is a sport where athletes compete on a team but perform individually. So it tells that individual sports what? Okay, so again, only athlete competes ng sarili lang niya. Sarili niyang galing, sarili niyang talent, sarili niyang husay. Yan. So, many examples of individual sports like track and field, swimming, golf, skiing, snowboarding, and also gymnastic. Kasi, pina-perform siya individually. So, again, sinasabi dito, athlete competes for his or her own side. So, sinasabi rin dito, one athlete is solely responsible for winning or losing. So, that's it, the individual sports. So, example picture, the swimming and the bowling. Next is the dual sports. There are only a handful of sports that are strictly dual sports and don't have an option for individual competition. So, it tells that many sports are strictly dual sports. But, meron ding ibang sports na pwede siyang individual and dual sports. There are certain sports that can be either individual or dual sports. The most common example is tennis, where athletes can compete in singles or doubles play, and many competitors take part in both of major tournaments. You can also play other racket sports like badminton and racquetball in either format. Table tennis or ping pong gives player option for playing as well as individual or as duos. Billiards offers 2-on-2 options as well. So ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina, that there are certain sports na pwede siyang laruin ng individual or dual sports. Example again, the tennis, the badminton, the racquetball, the table tennis, the ping pong, and billiards, and many more. So in sports, individual and dual sports, meron po tayong advantage and disadvantage. So in individual sports can be fun because you're solely responsible for the outcome. So yun po yung sinasabi na masayang laruin din ang individual sports because you are responsible for the outcome. So, ikaw lang yung maging responsible kung ano man magiging resulta niyan. The performance rests on your shoulders. So, sa'yo nakasalalay yung laban na yon. Sa'yo lang. And you receive all the credit of your victory. So, pag nanalo ka, if you win, okay, lahat ng credits for your victory ay sa'yo lang. Marireceive mo lang yan. Sa'yo lang yon, yung medalya, sa'yo lang yung trophy. Individual sports require a competitive spirit and a self-starting nature. So, required po yan as a player of individual sports. You have a competitive spirit and self-starting nature. You're on your own as individual athlete. So, you have to compete without anyone beside you to take up the slack. So, kapag maglalaro ka na sa individual sports, walang pwedeng pumalit sa'yo sa laro na yan. Walang kang pwedeng asahan sa katabi mo habang naglalaro yan, kundi sarili mo lang. Responsible for the outcome. You are the responsible of your own. On the opposite side of the argument, if you lose, all the blame falls on you as an individual athlete. So, kapag nanalo ka, all the credits of the victory ay sa'yo lang. Pero, if you lose, all the blames falls on you. So, yun lang yung disadvantage in terms of individual sports. So, lahat ng blames sa'yo lang. So, ikaw lang yung aako nun. You also don't have a teammate to lean on if you're struggling or having a bad performance. It's easier to get discouraged when you're the only athlete competing. So, yun din ang isang disadvantage ng individual sports. So, wala kang teammate na matatawag and wala kang kasama sa inyong performance and madali kang ma-discourage. Kasi, ikaw lang yung mag-isa. So, ikaw lang talaga yun. So, pag may problema ka, may struggling moment ka, so wala kang teammate na makakausap. Competing in dual sports can be fun because of the camaraderie and the teamwork involved in working together as a team. So, ito naman po yung kagandahan ng dual sports. Okay, when you play, okay, meron tayong natawag na camaraderie na natawag and teamwork. So, may pagtulungan kayo, sama-sama kayong nagtutulungan as a team para manalo. Dual teammates can encourage each other and play off each other to win. So, in dual teammates, okay, so you can encourage each other. So, kaya natin yan. Okay, yung kahinaan ng isa, pwede maging kalakasan ng isa. Okay, magiging tulungan po ang mangyayari. One teammate can also bear the load when the other one is struggling or having difficulty. So, ayan, meron kayong dalawa nag-uusap-usap, nagtutulungan if may problema. Dual sports required cooperation. So if you get along well with your fellow athletes, you'll do well in a dual sports. Okay, so sinasabi dito, sa dual sport, required ng cooperation. And then, you get along with your fellow athletes. So meron kang nakakasama and you develop more the socialization and mas napapadali yung laro nyo dahil dalawa kayo. There are disadvantages to dual sports as well. You have less control over the outcome when you're relying on another teammate. So, yan din po yung mga disadvantage in dual sports. You have less control over the outcome. Hindi mo alam kung ano pwedeng gawin ng teammate mo. Okay, so ang mahirap mag-rely sa isang tao or sa ka-teammate mo. Ang hirap ang sitwasyon dun minsan kasi, yun nga, may kanya-kanya kayong skills at minsan hindi kayo nagkakasundo. You can have your best individual performance and still lose the match or the game in a dual sports, which is an important factor to remember. So, isang case din yan ng disadvantage ng dual sports. Okay, so ikaw, you do all your best. Okay, best individual performance. But still, natalo pa rin kayo dahil sa poor performance siguro ng inyong kasama. You can also find burden of the game or match falling on you if your teammate is performing poorly or as bad attitude. So, yun din sinabi ko kanina, na ikaw ginagawa mo yung best mo sa paglalaro, but your teammates ay hindi or may poor performance or attitude. So, disadvantage din siya ng dual sports. So, that's it. So, na-explain na natin what is individual sports, what is dual sports, what is the disadvantage and the advantages of dual and individual sports. So, I hope you learned something today. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. And that's all for today. God bless.